Hey. Hey. Michael.
I can't stop laughing. I can't stop giggling. We just said it feels a little like between two ferns. Yeah. You want to strap the headphones on there?
Amazing.
That thing will tilt towards you a little bit if you.
I love Between Two Ferns.
Oh, man.
I'm not that funny, though, so.
All right. So here's what I think we should do, Michael. First of all, are you easily offended?
Lord, no.
Okay.
That's good.
I think Winston and I should give our first impressions.
Oh, God.
First impressions.
First impressions.
Phenomenal. I mean, he's a Pinterest post.
Oh, boy.
Okay. All right. I'm feeling that. Yeah.
For like like the outdoorsman I want to be.
Okay.
Right. Like,
and what are you seeing that makes you feel that way?
Are those Red Wings?
Those are Danners.
Danner's even better.
I mean, you could pick one of two brands, Danner or Red Wing.
I've got both.
Yes. All right.
We're with the Danners today.
Okay.
Black frame glasses. Love the classic look. I want to be able to pull that off.
Shinola watch.
Nope. These are Bertucci.
Bertucci. Okay.
Fishing. Kind of fly fishing.
Gotcha.
Company.
The other thing is he came in with the Meredith's coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he's.
I didn't notice that until just now.
He definitely knows the rounds around here. Mm-hmm. He didn't fly in from New York for this. Did
you
fly in from New York?
Oh, no, God, no.
Okay.
So you're local.
So he's
very local.
Okay, very local. All right. So,
he has a Meredith's coffee.
Yeah, but I also picked up the camo hat with the blaze orange
I don't think
embroidery that says Bourbon Gospel. And so that's interesting to me.
Should be, yeah.
So here, first impressions, you're like Pinterest post. This guy's
amazing.
A cool
I've
guy.
never been accused of being a Pinterest post. So that's I think that's a thing. It's kind of cool.
I love the voice.
Oh.
There's a gravelly kind of vocal thing going on there. Maybe enjoy cigars from time to time.
4 a day, 5 a day.
Oh my goodness!
There you go. From time to time.
So
from one moment to the next.
So you like cigars?
Yeah, very much.
Here's what I'd love to start with. I'm curious why you think Brett Henry thought this would be a good idea.
I'm just as curious as y'all are.
Okay. What did he say to you? I'll tell you what he said to me.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I'd love to hear what he said to you. So Brett texted me the other day. I'd put something out on Instagram that just said, "Hey, who would you like to hear on the podcast, or what topics would you like to hear us discuss?" And he said, "Are you ready for your best podcast yet?"
God.
And I forgot this. He said, "And your doppelganger." Now hold on. Real quick.
I do remember.
Do you think Michael and I favor?
I do think you favor.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
if you were worthy of Pinterest, yeah,
that's true. I'm not anywhere close.
You're not there yet.
I'm not anywhere close
You're not
to the
there
level.
yet.
I gave Brett one of these little. There's like an Asian actor who's on a talk show, and he does one of these like, I don't know. And so I told him I don't know. And I said, part of me just wants to say yes and know nothing about him and just see what happens. Could he be available Wednesday at 10 a.m.? Don't tell me anything else.
That is amazing.
And he said, "You're going to love me for this one. Don't look him up. It'll be a blast." So then that's how we're here. Now, how did he approach you with this idea?
Well, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to unveil the layers of this, I guess. I just met Brett. Like we've known each other for a full week and a half, so that should
I've only known him like a few months,
and
I'm a little bit taken aback by that.
Yeah, a week and a half we've known each other,
and somehow you agreed. He talked you into this.
We sat down with another friend I've only known for 2 months that connected us, and by the end of a couple of hours hanging out, he said, "I got some guys you need to know."
Who's that friend?
So that friend was a guy named David Blaylock.
I don't know David.
David's awesome and hangs out with Brett down in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
And I had met Brett. I had met David in a cigar shop in Spring Hill, Mission Cigar. We connected watching the national championship game. Just in there doing our thing. And then he found out I was down in the Columbia way, and he said, "There's a guy I need you to meet." And he drags Brett over.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a long conversation sitting at a picnic table behind my place, he said, "I got some guys you really need to know to talk about some stuff that they really like and you really like." So
When was this?
A week and a half ago.
Was he talking about us?
Yes, talking about y'all. Well, no, so this was, like he said, I'm going to make some connects. And then I guess the same 2 days ago, whenever this started transpiring, he's like, you gotta know these people. He had asked me if I knew who y'all were a week and a half ago, and I sadly said, no, I've not heard of that yet. So
I'm a little bit surprised by that. We're kind of a big deal, I
feel bad
huge
about it.
deal. We got dozens and dozens of people watching.
I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
I feel bad
Massive
about it.
following.
Yeah.
At least a classroom full.
So I'm picking up a few things, and I don't know. We're kind of going in this completely blind. You are as well. We didn't really know how to approach this. Like, there's no list of questions or things like that. But I am picking up on the accent. I feel like I'm feeling like some Louisiana.
Oh, buddy, that's good. So close.
Is it really?
So close.
Where?
I was born and raised in Texarkana, Texas.
Okay.
Which is basically North Shreveport, Louisiana.
I was going to say, so pretty daggum close. That's interesting.
It's the Louisiana, Texas. That's a really nice spiritual gift you've got there.
It was impressive.
Discernment and accent.
I'm still stuck on his tone, which is amazing.
It's the morning. It's cigar. It's bourbon.
Have you already had one this morning?
I have not. I had another meeting down the road this morning, so
Okay.
I'm a little itchy.
You normally have one in the morning?
Mornings are my favorite. So I'm an early riser, and I really like good black coffee and a good cigar in the mornings, and kind of sets the day right.
Good gracious.
That's awesome.
Me and Jesus hang out in the haze of smoke in the mornings, and that's kind of how that works.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So we got a Jesus reference.
Yeah.
Bourbon Gospel. There's something there.
I've never been this cryptic in my life, guys.
Yeah.
The irony of this whole situation is I'm such a open book in every part of my life, and this is just hilariously cryptic.
It's so good.
So born in Texarkana.
Born and raised, 5 generations deep there. I'm the only one who's ever left, and I came here 21 years ago.
So Texas to Tennessee, 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and
What brought you here?
music. I'm a songwriter, so I'll go ahead and give you that one.
Okay.
Songwriter by day. I wrote some songs way back in the day that some artists in Nashville heard, and unbeknownst to me, the very first one got put on a record, and I didn't even know it was on the record. And the next thing I know, I'm hauling my wife and 2 beautiful daughters to Tennessee, and 5 generations of Texarkana folks are going, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I was supposed to be there, I think." So and it's been a good journey.
20, how many years ago?
A little over 20 years.
20 years, okay. So married, 2 daughters. I noticed the ring earlier, so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, he's married to a woman, I presume.
Yes, to a very beautiful, born in Arkansas woman, and got her to Texas as fast as I could, and then moved her to Tennessee. So
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So songwriter. And I would guess in Nashville you're either going to be country music or Christian music. And I'm kind of leaning Christian just because of the Bourbon Gospel and the Jesus thing, but I don't know. But I'm curious about that.
it's both.
Okay.
It's just as wide as it can be. I write a lot of both, and that's the gig.
Home base is Columbia?
So when we first moved to town, we moved to Spring Hill, and then we moved to Franklin here. We lived here for quite a while. Sullivan Farm down just south of town here. And then we bought some property a few years ago off of Carter's Creek, Knob Creek Road, back out in that area. And so we're back over there, which is the other fun connect with Brett, is that we live probably a mile from each other out where he lives.
See, so I wasn't aware that, I mean, I love Brett, but I haven't seen him in several months, maybe a year. But I knew that he and Charity were planning on moving south, but I didn't know they actually did that. So they're down there now.
Yeah, you can find them off of Knob Creek Road.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of out behind where we're currently trying to build a house. So.
Okay.
So yeah, my whole world revolves around Columbia at this point.
What's your wife's name?
Elisa.
Elisa?
Yep.
All right. You know how long have y'all been married?
31 years.
30. Oh,
Man.
okay.
Man.
Now we're getting into it. 31 years married to the same woman.
31 years, 2 daughters, 27 and 29. And
Would you have guessed?
I do want to be him when I grow up.
Would you have guessed that he had a 27 and a 29-year-old?
No, that's way higher. That's about a decade higher.
well, so when you're in Texarkana, you go to work at Cooper Tire when you're 19, and you get married about then too.
Yeah.
And so we got married at 20 and 21.
Yeah.
Had kids really fast. So we're young. We're young still. With
You've long since been empty nested.
So I'm doing some math. You're 50?
52.
52,
Just-
okay. All right.
52.
Man, I'm just, I'm just,
is
I've got a
amazing.
bucket of questions. Right
I do too.
And I don't know, where
I
do
have
you want
one.
to go, Winston?
I have one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Music was a part of your life when you
Yeah.
were young.
Yeah, very much so.
When did you transition from like the joy of music and writing for yourself to, oh, you know what, this is a shareable thing? Or did you always really like sharing your music with people? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. My dad was a Baptist preacher, so was my grandfather. So I
Are we
was
talking Southern Baptist, Independent Baptist?
independent, fundamental, premillennial,
Okay.
King James only.
Wow. All right.
That's actually on the sign where my grandfather pastored
Wow, yeah.
to this day.
Yeah.
literally
On the sign it says Beulah Land Baptist Church, independent, fundamental, premillennial, King James only. Everybody welcome.
Beulah Land Baptist Church.
Yeah, that's a real
What
thing.
a great name.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
That's amazing.
I
So
grew up in
classic.
a Southern gospel singing family.
Okay.
Made my first record when I was 5. And this is all I ever knew. My dad did
Yeah,
become
you were
Southern
born
Baptist.
with a guitar in your hand.
Pretty much. And my dad became Southern Baptist when I was about 10 years old. And I thought, sweet freedom. We get a TV and I
Yeah.
can wear shorts now.
Yeah.
This is great. So,
Yeah.
so that's where it started.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's always, I
in
guess,
your
been-
blood.
Yeah, it's always been, music has always been about something bigger than me in
Yeah.
the sense of like the way I was raised, it was always meant to be shared. I
Yeah,
guess
okay.
is the way to say it, but I don't.
Yeah.
If that answers it.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
did
no.
when did you write your first song? The one that kind of got you here.
So the one that got me here, I wrote in '99. So
He's our first tattooed guest.
I know that's got to be wrong.
It keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Keeps getting better, dude.
I'm just hot. Y'all made me nervous.
Should have cranked the AC.
You can start asking us questions
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know,
So that song in particular, I wrote it in '99, and it was obviously a worship song, and the artist who heard it was Michael W. Smith.
Okay.
I've
heard of him.
And the song was called "Let It Rain," and so it went on his album. I didn't even know it was on the record. He had heard me sing it somewhere else. I'd never met him, and that just launched.
That's incredible, too.
Me into the thing. So that most of my journey, even the last 20 years here, has just been like, well, here we go.
Yeah.
I tell people my life is a series of side doors. I think I'm going through that one, and just as I get to it, the side one opens, and so, well, I guess that's
a
where we're
great
going.
metaphor.
I don't want to
Side
get
door.
too technical here, but I am curious about how this works. You didn't know the song was even on the album. Is that legal?
Well-
did Smitty rip you off? Like, what's the deal?
Smitty did not rip me off because what
was
had
pre-YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, what had happened was I had a band called Pocket Full of Rocks, and we toured for 16 years together back in the day. And it was more modern worship kind of thing. And I was leading at these big conferences. And we did one in D.C. in the early 2000s, and Smitty was in the audience. And I never spoke to him, never met him. We did our thing. We went back to Texas, and a year later or so, he calls out of the blue. And I thought it was a joke. My phone rings. My wife and I are eating in a Luby's cafeteria. They have those down where I'm from.
Yeah.
So we're eating the Luby's, and my phone, my Razor flip phone, of course, because it's
yeah.
just that far back. And it's like, I don't recognize the 615. I didn't know what 615 was, so I answer it, and this guy goes, "Hey, is this Michael Farren?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "This is Michael W. Smith. You got a minute to talk?" And I was like, this can't be.
I'm at Luby's right now.
Yeah.
Can I call you back?
Yeah. I literally just kept
I got
eating.
a meeting 3 on my.
I thought it was my drummer playing a prank because he would do that all the time. He'd call me up and pretend to be my heroes or whatever. And about 45 seconds into it, I looked at my wife and I went, "I think it's really him." And he said, "Hey, I heard you do this song. We haven't been able to find you." He said, literally, we've looked everywhere for you and couldn't find you. And he said, we finally got your number, and I wanted to be the first one to call you and tell you thank you, and I can't wait to meet you. And the album comes out next week. It came out on the morning of 9/11.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So
man.
the first Michael W. Smith worship record came out on 9/11.
No way.
I was loading the car in Texarkana to drive to Dallas to meet him that day because that's where the worship album tour was going to start. And he said, come be my guest. I want to meet you. And obviously that never happened because they shut down everything that day. And I didn't meet him for years after that. And now he's the sweetest guy you'll ever meet and a good friend. But that's
What
how
a
I kind of
cool
got drugged
story.
here. So Brett didn't tell me much about y'all.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
All I know is I've been on a podcast called Southern Gentlemen.
Yeah.
And from the bio I can read, it says two really good dudes trying to figure out how to be better dudes.
Well, we're trying to break down all the walls. Like Winston and I, we've been married for how long? You and me? 3 years. We've got one adopted.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, we dated a while.
I like younger men.
Jeez, Chris.
Congratulations.
Unbelievable. How did this start?
This is interesting because we've never sat here and had to do this. We've never.
Explain our story.
Yeah.
We told people how we started.
Yeah. But I mean, that's in the first episode probably.
Yeah.
How long have we known each other for? I don't know that I can say I've known you for 15 years. I've known of you.
We worked 10 feet apart.
Yeah.
I don't know, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. At
So,
least.
And where was that at?
Dave Ramsey, are you
Yeah,
familiar?
yeah,
So we
yes.
both.
We were there.
We were there. I do think we need to give some context. Dave hired me in 2001, and I spent 12 and a half years working with him there.
2001?
Yeah, December 10th, 2001. I still remember it.
Wow.
So I spent 12 and a half years with Dave. In the meantime, Winston started dating Dave's daughter and is now married to said daughter, Rachel.
Okay. All right.
So Rachel bears his last name.
Okay.
Rachel
UT
Cruze.
Knoxville.
Yeah.
Go,
All right.
Go Vols.
Yeah. I think I caught that in the bio.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
long history of East Tennessee.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm a Middle Tennessee guy through and through.
Yep.
Nashville. I'm sixth generation as far as I can tell. Going
Okay.
back, I haven't gone back further than that.
That's as far as you can go, probably.
Yeah, probably. But so Winston and I knew. I mean, we worked on the same floor for many years, and just kind of knew each other. I don't know, a little bit, and then both departed from working there. So Winston's out on his own doing real estate. I'm out on my own doing just crazy stuff. I feel like my life. You using the side door thing. I'm like
Great metaphor.
that feels like I've never heard that.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like the last 11 years of my life have been. Out on my own is just side doors.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, a couple of years ago, we played golf with a couple of buddies.
Yep.
And just kind of like,
reconnected.
Yeah, I had never spent 4 uninterrupted hours with him before. But I was like, I kind of like this dude. And then, I don't know, it would be like catching up over a lunch every now and then, something like that. And then, I don't remember when it was, September. I had a dream. I literally, I dream like crazy. I dream all the time. Most nights I'll have 3 or 4 dreams, and it's just
amazing.
wild. I wake up and I'm like, I just am. I know I'm not going to care when I get to heaven, but I hope I'm able to go like, dial me in. What are dreams? What are these things? Where do they come from? Because I'm just blown away by them. And I had a dream that Winston
I have
and
heard it's your subconscious.
You
So
think? I mean,
So I'm deep down in that subconscious of yours. I think is what it is.
I there's got to be something spiritual to it.
It's
Has to
deeply
be.
deeply spiritual.
Has to be.
Yeah.
And I had a dream that Winston and I were doing a podcast together, and there was no other content. I can tell you, I can describe the building we were in. We were walking down a hallway. We walked into like this beautiful studio. It had glass walls, and but I had no idea what we were going to talk about or nothing. It was just like, hey, it's time
That's
to go do
coming
the
true.
podcast.
Yeah, we haven't really realized that part of the dream yet.
Yeah.
We got a
And-
turkey though.
We do have a turkey. And so I just texted him the next morning, like, I had a crazy dream. We were doing a podcast together. And I honestly thought, like, that would just be, that's silly. It's fun. And he was just like, well, let's get lunch. Let's talk about that. And so now we just do it once a week. We just sit here and goof off. We'll have guests occasionally. Or last week we told nothing but dad jokes.
Okay.
Because
I'll be dialing that one up.
Yep. Are you a dad joke fan?
I'm a big dad. I'm the worst joke teller in the world, so don't even ask me to give you one. It's actually a stick. It's a terrible genetic trait I get from my Baptist preacher dad, who is famous for not being able to finish a joke in a sermon.
Okay.
So yeah, don't even get me going.
Kidding.
But like he will screw up the joke every single time in the middle of a sermon, and it just becomes part of the joke. It's like the whole audience laugh, the congregation. It's endearing, and I inherited tragically for all the good things that I got from a really great dad. I tragically got the bad genetics of not being able to tell a joke well. So, but I'm a fan of dad jokes.
Yeah, we're probably going to ask you to come up with one dad joke before the end of this. I mean, just be thinking, just let it roll around.
It ain't going to happen. I'm just telling you straight up.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
I'm a little bit disappointed now.
Well, it would be even better if he told the first half and doesn't tell the second half because he can't remember it. And then we just have to figure it out later.
Yeah, that would be funny. So that's how we're sitting here, and I love it. We just I don't know. We'll talk about being dads or being husbands. We'll talk about
family guys, just having great conversations. I like it already, and it is a great vibe. Like, I'm just telling you,
I think
for not knowing who I am and me walking in. I mean, even the crypticness of it all is y'all are a very welcoming and gracious demeanor, and so yeah.
Oh, good job, man.
Good job.
Only 3.5 years.
And how old are y'all, if I may ask?
I'm 39, been married 15 years.
Got it.
3 kids.
I'm 47. I had to think about that for a minute. I think that's right. Yeah, 40. I'll turn 48 in October. I've been married to the same woman for
24 this year.
24 this year.
Congratulations.
But not yet.
Yeah.
And we have 4 kids. Our oldest is 19. Our youngest is 8. So it's a hot mess around our place.
Well, big old high fives to both of you.
Yeah.
Those are huge mile markers.
I am curious about married to the same woman for 30 years now. 31 years.
Yeah.
And getting married so young, what I don't even really know what to ask, but I want to ask, like, how have you guys been able to maintain that over 30 years? Do you still like each other?
Very, very much.
Okay, that's great.
And more so now than ever, really.
Yeah.
And I won't wax into any too deep of stuff, but I'll just say that every marriage has its messes along the way.
Sure.
Year 25 for us was a doozy. We actually were separated for almost a year, and again, I don't know you guys that much, so I'm a real ragged around the edges believer. Like I'm.
You're a ragamuffin gospel guy.
Okay. And so I don't wax too religious with it, but I will say that year 25 was a rough one, and I can only say that even that rough window wasn't really predicated on something new. It was old stuff from individual lives that caught up with you. Because if I've learned anything at 31 years of marriage and 52 years of age, is that craziness and trauma doesn't go away. It's going to demand you look at it at some point along the way. Mm-hmm. And when kids get out of the house and when the busyness of life changes and the things that you found your identity in, as in music or a band or whatever, we stood on the stage together for 16 years. She's an incredible singer and worship.
Was she in the band?
Yeah, she was in the band with me. And so when things shift that drastically, which y'all will encounter along the way when your kids are flying off, and then all of a sudden you have a reckoning to a bunch of stuff that you didn't really mess with before. And so we didn't quite know how to deal with that when it came up, when it started kind of saying, hey, deal with me. We didn't know how to do that, and it got pretty wildly crazy for a while. And then 2018, 2019 was really rough. And then 2020, some really cool stuff started happening, stories for other days maybe.
Shout out pandemic.
Miraculous, though, like divine. But it did come down to at least for me, and I know to her as well, but to me, I discovered that if I'm looking long-term at relationships that I can observe and go, what made these relationships that I'm aware of last a long, long time and truly, genuinely be, because you can't fake it for very long. You know, like, but you want to talk about like relationships I looked at that were long term, I could go, okay, they were really happy for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I started pulling the thread of what made that so. And there's probably other things, but for me, I started realizing that the one thing in long-term relationships that those that you know of, it generally is two people who happen to, for whatever reason, either they knew or they just unwittingly did it. It generally is always two individuals who have spent time making sure that they individually were healthy. Mm-hmm. Two healthy individuals make for a really great partnership.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking Winston's language right now.
And so at that breakdown, it really took a separation for me to go, okay, she's not the problem. Music industry isn't the problem. Business isn't the problem. God's not the problem, because I had the biggest problem with God.
Yeah.
And I was looking in the mirror one day and going, Michael's the problem.
Yeah.
And I started for the first time in my life, even with a deeply spiritual background and standing on a lot of stages, ordained minister, all this stuff. And then I realized, no, I'm actually the big dang problem here. Mm-hmm. I started dealing with that, and so did my wife. And what do you know? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, she's pretty beautiful again. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of a dude that she fell in love with all of a sudden a long time before. And it's been pretty wildly good. Mm-hmm. And we're off to some crazy adventures, even presently, which is more the impetus probably what Brett said. Y'all need to sit down and talk. So, but that, even doing what I'm doing today is predicated on a miraculous thing happening 5 years ago in a marriage. So 31 years in now. Yeah. My wife is an open book too. So what you see is what you get with us. And it's just pretty fun journey. Our daughters are awesome.
Can you share a little bit about, like, when you say looking in the mirror and realizing that Michael's the problem here, what were you seeing that made you realize that?
Well, everything around me was falling apart. I'd spent years trying to build, business things and ministry things, and everything's just not working. Giving my whole life. And again, I've not listened to y'all's podcast, so I'm pretty sure it's not a religious podcast, and I don't operate in a lot of those scenes anymore myself. So I don't know how spiritual to go with this. But
it is a life podcast.
Yeah, it's a life podcast. Well,
one and the same.
Fair enough. Then I think that so much around me was so broken, and I tried so hard in the spirit of like serving God and giving my whole life to God to end up very angry at God, only then to realize that half of what I did, he never even asked me to do. Like I was so misguided in my kingdom pursuits along the way.
You were making your own plans.
Yeah. And the best analogy I have for it is from the story of Peter, the disciple. And Peter gives up everything and follows Jesus, right? And this 3.5 year wild journey of giving up his day job and like his family's going, what are you doing? And following this Messiah guy around, and to end up, starting to really believe this narrative of this is the guy that's going to be the king. He's going to set up the kingdom here, and I'm going to be his right-hand guy. To in the garden, in an instant, when they come to drag Jesus off, and Peter pulls out his sword to defend him, takes off the ear of a guy, and Jesus, in one instant of picking up an ear, putting it back on his head, shattered Peter's world, because in that instant, Peter went, oh, crap. I've been building the wrong kingdom for 3.5 years. He thought that Jesus was going to set up an earthly kingdom, overthrow the Romans, and that he was going to get to be his right-hand dude in charge now all of a sudden. It was going to be worth all the work everything he'd given up and all the stuff. So when he was standing next to the burn barrels and they're over there judging Jesus, and they asked Peter, the whole story of Peter denying him,
sure.
It's always usually preached as, well, Peter was a coward. He's like, are you one of his? He's, oh, no, I'm not one of his. And I had this revelation years ago that Peter, at that moment, we were misreading it. He wasn't over there beside a burn barrel going, oh, no, I'm one of his. I'm not one of his. When they said, aren't you one of his? I believe he threw a cussing fit. I believe he was like, heck no, I'm not one of his. I'm definitely not one of his. He was angry. He was angry. He wasn't a coward, because he had just tried to take on a whole platoon of soldiers by himself. He was a man's man. He was not a coward. But at that burn barrel, he was angry because he realized in an instant he had given up everything to serve a kingdom that was slightly off point.
Wow.
And so that's where I found myself. It was like, 20 plus years of ministry experience and writing songs and traveling all over the world and trying to start things and businesses and help people and all this stuff. And it's like, everything's burning down around me. And then it was just a God problem. Well, you've tricked me, and now you're not here for me. And all this stuff is broken and falling apart. And then to look in the mirror and go, no, it ain't a spouse problem. It ain't a God problem. It's a me problem. I got to get my stuff straightened out here. So
I just want to say thanks for honoring us with that. And,
yeah,
I mean,
I never tell that stuff. This is weird.
Weird. Well, I will tell you, one of the hardest things for me or us to do as men is to like voluntarily take the descent into our own unexamined past, our unexamined soul. And I think I spent probably 13 of our 15 years expecting Rachel, my wife, to fix me.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I put everything on her because that's what I was that's what I saw growing up, right? I mean,
it's Southern.
It's like, well, it's the match made in heaven. It's the puzzle piece. It's we were meant for each other. All that rhetoric became like, well, you're the soulmate. You're the person that God gave to me. So fix me, right? And it doesn't work.
No, it does not.
But for you to just raise your hand and go through what you did, that humility, it doesn't preach. Number one, it doesn't preach. You will not hear that level of surrender preached because it's not attractive. It sucks. Like it's hard, it's difficult. But the beauty on the other side, I think that's the gospel. Like that's what you're talking about.
That's the gospel.
But man, I just thanks for letting us in on that, and well done.
We just met this dude like 30 minutes ago.
I know. That's
Lord have mercy.
But dude, I totally identify with all that.
Well,
Not many men would say, you know what? There's something in this equation that's not working.
Well,
and for
sadly-
you to be like, oh, it's me.
Well, sadly, I wished I could have had the wherewithal and the manliness to approach it without having to be so dang busted before it was over with. Like, I'm a lover of bourbon. I love great bourbons. But at that point, I was drinking a fifth of it a day to cope with this falling apart of life, kingdom, marriage, and all the stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wished, and I don't believe men have to become as broken as I had become to reckon with this thing, which is probably why I find myself in the season of life being a little bit willing to go, oh, I can tell you where this is headed if you don't look in a mirror and go, you got a problem. And so I don't believe men have to become that broken. I, unfortunately, I'm a stubborn Irish, Texas, arrogant, whatever, who just can fight.
Yeah.
I'll fight and fight and fight. And
Yeah.
it didn't have to devolve to the level that it did. And fortunately, I've got a lot of friends and brothers that it hasn't had to go that far for them to start looking.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I mean, you're 47, you said?
Yeah.
In your late 30s, right? I will say your generation is picking up on it quicker because even my son-in-law is 30. And it's like y'all's generation and younger is actually approaching this, we'll call it what you want, mental health, which to me is just sacred. Mental health is a sacred thing. Call it what you want.
Sure.
You can over spiritualize it too much,
the soul of you.
or you can clinical it too much. But it is the soul of man, and God cares deeply for it.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, church in general has done a terrible job with mental health and marriage and all the whole. Like, to me, marriage retreats are the worst things that a church has ever invented.
Amen.
I think, because think of the logic behind it. And I am guilty of having been on staff and having to host a number of these through the years. Here's a good idea, guys. Let's get all the troubled marriages in our church and let's cram them all together in a really tight confines of a really lovely retreat center. They hate each other, but let's get them all together and let's make them say platitudes to each other in front of other couples and send them off on nature hikes together. And it's just the absurdity of it on the other side. And that's a gross generalization, but that's kind of what it is.
Good, though.
Because the reality is, if you or me would just go figure out, I got issues and I need to fix it, you generally are going to be okay.
Yeah.
There's the scripture that gets really overlooked to me. It's like, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That "as" is one of the most important short words I believe I've ever read in scripture. As. To the level you can take care of you is the level you can take care of somebody next to you.
It's true.
And to the level you don't take care of you is the level you're going to take care of somebody else. And so it feels counterintuitive to modern day Christianity. Oh, I've got to take care of myself. My generation and above. It's like, it was just holy to suffer. It was meek and humble to just grin and bear it and deal with it and be, 65 years in a terrible marriage and die grumpy and angry. And that's not the best. And so thankfully the generation coming up understands, oh no, this is actually really sacred. This is really beautiful. Let's lean in. But in my long answer to your question, healthy individuals make for a healthy relationship. That's all I know. That's all I'm leaning into now.
My brother said one time, you can't have an A+ marriage with C- people.
Buddy, so that's so good. I'm borrowing that. I think there's a place for marital work, but I think the individual work is where it's at. I want to ask you this. Do you think what you went through was necessary? Well, I don't know. That's a tricky question.
Because the mystery of it is we all walk our own path. We all have our own bottom. Right, and our own multiple bottoms. Right, we all have our stories.
Yeah,
and the mystery is how God reveals Himself to us through it. So, looking back on it, I know you said it didn't have to get to that point, but I just want to know what you think about that.
For me, it did. For me, it did. And my hope is that friends of mine don't have to go there. They don't have to devolve into a fifth day and and abandoning everything that they've built to just try to implode or to throw two middle fingers at God on the hood of your truck one night and say, don't ever speak to me again, to have Him loudly speak to you the very next day. That's kind of where I ended up.
Yeah.
And so,
do you think you were running from something?
That's cool.
I was running from all the things that weren't working, and from a God who said that there was blessing in following Him, and all of a sudden I didn't see much blessing in it, and I was very angry with Him at it. Yeah. But again, it was all about being off point. It was like, well, half the stuff I was spending my life doing, He never even said go do. I mean, He's much, in my opinion, at least in this season of my life, the relationship with the divine is a lot simpler than I ever had deemed it to be. And I've written a lot of songs about it through the years. I write 250 songs a year. I've written a lot of songs about this whole God thing through the years. Mainly what I write now is country, and I find a lot more freedom and honesty in that. The last 6 years of my life has been, I write 200 plus country songs a year, and very few gospel or worship things because it means even more to me now.
Yeah.
But I find a whole lot more honesty and wrestle in the language and narrative of country music and storyteller music or whatever. So there are still holy moments along the way, and I'm grateful for those in songs or whatever. But
man, I'd love me like a good raw, honest worship song. That'd be good.
Do they exist?
I hope so.
Yeah, sure they do.
I hope so. I
don't know if they've made it into church yet. Again, it's not pretty.
I think you hit on it a while ago. It's not the niceties of a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But it is the needful of, and especially men. This is a podcast evidently about men.
That's good.
And trying to figure out how to be better men. And
yeah,
I think that's where I'm at in life, even as in what I do for a living, is trying to put language to songs that matter to a lot of men, really. It's like, I wrote a song coming out of 2019, beginning of 20, my wife and I got back together. We're trying to figure it out. It's still very fragile, but
were y'all physically separated during that time?
Wow. Yeah, almost a year. And I swore I was never coming back. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. Which threw everybody in this town because that was not expected of me and her or whatever. But out of that, I wrote a song, and it was just an overflow of a song one night, sitting in the bonus room right down here in south of Franklin with a couple of buddies of mine. And we were responsibly enjoying a bottle of really good bourbon, and not where I had previously been, trying to annihilate myself with it. Responsibly enjoying a bottle of bourbon and sitting there one night, and the song fell out. I just started singing the first lines of the song, and we weren't supposed to be writing. It was just three songwriters hanging out. And but the opening lines were, sometimes marriages don't work, and sometimes babies die, and sometimes rehab turns to relapse, and everybody's asking why. For all the prayers I've prayed, I sometimes wonder if he's real. And if he is, how is he choosing who he does and doesn't heal? And the chorus says, I've tried to run from Jesus. I've started holy wars. I've tried the patient waiting, and I've kicked down all the doors. I've cursed his name in anger with my fist raised to the sky. And in return, all he's ever been is kind. Those songs, to me, are what men need to be able to sit in and hear. But the Christian music...
Did you hear that?
Which one?
That was amazing.
This? Yeah, I thought I didn't
Those
know you were
lyrics?
referencing.
No.
Yes, I heard them.
So
I'm here.
Men being able to sit in lyrics like that matter to me.
Oh, man.
But you're not going to hear those on radio, and you're not going to hear them on Sunday morning. Yeah. There are some dudes along the way who are brave enough to put them on their records, thankfully. So, but they don't find it a commercial appeal.
Well,
so.
Why is that, you think? Why do you think we have an aversion to that type of...
That's a great question. I don't know. I think there's numerous layers of that answer. I think there's a lot of church pride, and I think there's a lot of religious rhetoric that it would implode. I think there's a lot of leadership that won't go there, and that kind of posture is always a leadership down scenario. And so when you have leaders, perceived leaders that have great influence over swaths of congregations or people groups who don't live there and wrestle hard things, then it's not modeled, and you have to model that kind of wrestle. You have to be able to model that. I didn't have sons, and I always thought I was going to have sons. And I'm the young, I'm 52, and I can't wait to be a grandpa. It's like, I hope I have a grandson someday, because I so desperately want to see men embrace this place of wrestling with God in a good way, so they don't end up the secretly bitter Christian dude that's filling up space on a pew somewhere, and it's really not doing any good and not wild and crazy anymore. And so, sadly, in my world, the majority of what I would want to write is not consumable by the masses, which is financially a pain in the butt. But
yeah, we want to feel good. We want to feel good about ourselves.
And I'm not throwing any shade on, there's a lot of shade in the music industry gets thrown on, soccer moms and the Christian radio and all that. I'm not throwing shade on that. That's needful.
This is in consumer stuff. That's just like, give me that feel good.
That's needful. But there is, and I do think it is. I think the ceiling is cracking a bit on what can be sung, and for me, sacred and secular doesn't exist in music. Like, it's all sacred. It doesn't matter if I'm writing a dance your butt off Friday night country song. That's sacred because somebody, I hope, down the road hears it and dances in a bar somewhere and needed to dance. Rough day, rough week, rough life, and they needed to dance. That's how sacred is that? That's really sacred. So as sacred as a song like the one I would quote versus a song somebody dances to on a Friday night, it's all sacred. And so I have a hard time putting up with the divide. This is Christian music, that's secular music. So I have a hard time with it, and I think a generation beyond me is going to see it completely go away. But I have the joy of being stuck in the middle of it.
If you could go back 5 or 6 years, and you've talked about having to work on yourself, what did working on yourself look like physically?
Man, so you say physically?
I mean, in the reality of this world we live in, what did that look like?
So working on myself was a lot of stages, it was a lot of growth. I think I got to a point. Golly, boys, I didn't expect this to be a deep.
Are you gonna cry? I want to make him cry.
No. I didn't expect this to be a deep. Dang it, Brett. We're gonna beat the crap out of Brett later.
He's not hard to beat the crap out of. Have you seen him?
Oh my gosh.
I think for me, coming into 2020. It was the whole me thing. I got a problem. I'm the problem with so much of this, and stuff does happen to us. Life does happen, and so there's variables in that. But at the end of the day, we make choices, right? And so, for me, it was mostly mental. It was the way my mind worked. It was the paradigms I have had developed since I was a child. Very religious paradigms, or very even Southern paradigms, bootstrap. We're man's men. We don't cry about stuff. We move on. We do our thing. And so for me, there was the deep mental reshift, which is, and I was so angry with God during that season. I wouldn't receive anything from anybody in my world that sniffed of spiritual anymore. You didn't send me a message clip. You didn't give me, platitudes and cliches from your last sermon you heard or the last Christian podcast but they knew better. I was not going to receive it. And so I found myself, oddly enough, poking into all these other realms I would have poked into, to all of a sudden have these other realms send me right back to what I'd always read in the scripture. Like, the trendy word among the secular world out there these days is manifest. I'm going to manifest that crap.
Yeah.
Well, you get down to the biblical part of that, and it's just pretty biblical. You reap what you sow. The power of life and death is in the tongue. The big one for me was, the whole idea of set your affections on things above. So much of my focus was on what was broken and what was messy and what I hated about myself. And the instant I started looking in a mirror and speaking the truth to myself in a mirror and saying, no, you are a good man because God thinks you're a good man. Yeah. Well, oddly enough, if you say you're a good man enough, you'll start doing good man things. Yeah. It's just the only way to change a paradigm in your mind, the way you think, is repetition of information, which is really biblical. I will meditate on your word day and night. And we take that so spiritual, but it's literally just, okay, what is the truth of God about Michael? Like, what does God think about me? Well, he actually likes me a lot. Turns out I wrote a lot of songs about liking him for years and didn't really think he liked me. Well, that's pretty weird. Yeah. Well, the last 5 years has been this journey of figuring out he actually likes me. And I can look in the mirror and go, Michael, you're a good man. Even on my worst day where I've really screwed it up, I lost my temper, whatever, I can go, you're a good man. Yeah. Well, over spiritualized or whatever, I'm a good man because of the Spirit of God inside of me, but also there's this thing in me that goes, no, you're a good man. And the more you speak that over your life, the more you will do good man things. I don't want to be the jackass that drinks a fifth a day. Yeah. And it's not because I'm scared of some theological repercussions of that. Fear-based theology never works. Yeah. Never works. It'll scare you right for a little while. Yeah. But saying in a mirror, hey, I'm a good man, and good men don't drink themselves to death on a fifth a day. Good men don't abandon their families. Good men don't make stupid decisions. And so nobody's perfect, but what you speak over you has bearing. And so the last 5 years of my life, they're actually learning to like me because I think God actually likes me. And when I like me, guess who I like? I like my wife. Yep. I like my friends. I like my brothers. All of a sudden, the competition in my world doesn't matter to me that much anymore. I could really celebrate my friends getting cuts that I didn't get on albums that I wanted to be on. It's this thing of like, so for me, it was speaking differently over my life. It was making some physical choices to enjoy a proper amount of a good bourbon. Yeah. It was choices along the way that now thankfully are becoming a good place to dwell and exist, and some cool things are starting to happen around that. Yeah. So,
thank God that we aren't defined by our worst moments.
Oh God!
But how many times have I taken that bait
and
had to unwind it and say, "But you're not."
Yeah.
But you're not.
It's easy.
But because I think it's a full-time job to remain in that loving truth that you're talking about. Like, it's a full-time job to live in that like healthy talk of yourself. For me, at least. I grew up in the what did you call it? That theology, fear-based theology. Mine was a little more shame-based.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, the God of the universe had to kill his son for you because of all of your mess ups and all your stuff. Wow. There's a whole second part of that wasn't necessarily focused on, which is the freedom of me that I get to enjoy now. But that first part was so emphasized growing up that like looking in the mirror and saying you're a good man, that's a tough thing to do when you hear that rhetoric your whole life.
I loathed myself, man.
Yeah.
I'm standing on stages in front of people.
Well, I killed God.
Well, yeah. I mean, how could you not loathe yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing to wrestle with when you're growing up with that rhetoric. Then you look back and say, all right, well, where is there space to really hold space for yourself and love all those moments and all those things and all the crap too? So I love that.
I promise I'm a way more fun guy than the road y'all led me down this morning. So.
We can take a left turn.
No, I'm fine. It's just kind of hilarious to me.
I think it's beautiful.
You've hinted at some new adventures that have come out of some of this work that you've been doing. Talk about those for a minute. Like what's on the horizon for you?
The great unveiling of where Brett actually intersected this whole thing, and y'all are now sitting with me this morning. So I guess the story all does tie together. Stepping away from what had previously been kind of my world and a little more of the Christian gospel worship thing, which I'm more a believer now than I've ever been in my life. You know, the roots of that in my life were way richer than they've ever been, even at the height of what I might have even been known for. I don't fit where I used to fit, and I haven't for a while, and that's fine. I don't write what I used to write. I don't carry it. I don't carry myself how I used to carry myself. I used to have a lot of filters because you had to. Well, now I just don't care. I am who I am. I love people, and if they can deal with my raggedness and the rough around the edges at this season of my life and this pretty, what I think is a lovely wrestle with the divine, then good. We're going to get along just fine. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I love you anyway. But I still love carrying songs myself as a songwriter. You know, I write for other people, but there's a lot of songs I want to carry. I love playing out in writers' rounds in Nashville. You know, that's the writers' round. It's the writers' round capital of the world. You know, and so about a year and a half ago, I started a writers' round. I live down in Columbia, but my office is on Music Row. I'm a staff writer at Curb Records, and I have a joint venture publishing thing with them. But my office is down on Music Row, so I literally drive from Columbia to Music Row just about every day. And right next to the record label there on Music Row is the Virgin Hotel. Underneath the Virgin Hotel is a speakeasy called The Late Great. It is a really cool spot, like really, really cool spot.
Didn't know it existed.
Yeah, exactly. There's no sign. It's imprinted embossed on the concrete. Doorman lets you in. So a year and a half ago, I started hosting my own writers' round, like you go to the Bluebird and see a writers' round. But I host it every month, and I bring in friends of mine who've written big songs that y'all would know from country radio or whatever. There's a few gospel guys along the way, but mainly country guys. And we just host a show, and it's called the Bourbon Gospel.
Okay.
And it's called the Bourbon Gospel.
The hat makes sense now.
Yeah, I know. So it's called the Bourbon Gospel, and so people were like, "Why'd you call it the Bourbon Gospel?" I go, "Well, it's the two things I've struggled the most with. It's like the bourbon and the gospel, and this also the two things I'm making peace with at this point." And so we had been looking for a venue to do this thing in, and finally a year and a half ago, connect with we ate lunch on the rooftop of the hotel almost every day, and they're like, "Well, the speakeasy, like, well, you could do it there." I went, "Really?" And so been doing it for a year and a half every month. It has sold out every single month. It's just standing room only, trying to get in this place.
How many people come?
It's that place will hold about 130.
That's fantastic.
140 people, and it's some seating, but people stand for an hour and 45 minutes. Songwriter round. And then about fall of last year, I started looking for a venue. I'm like, I really want to do this on a consistent. I'm a content creator. You guys are content creators. I mean, I know you have other things y'all do.
Well, absolutely.
Y'all are content creators. That's why we're sitting here today, right? And so, but that's what I do. I create content, whether that's a song or I produce records or I've done podcasts. I've done all this stuff. And I'm like, to do this the way I feel like I need to grow it, because it's obviously working, this thing people are showing up for, I need a venue for it. So I will say this, because I know my audience now.
Very small.
Well,
is that what you mean?
You too, by that small. What has made the Bourbon Gospel really special to me is that y'all knowing too much of my story, where I've come from, that from the very first one to the one 2 weeks ago, with unplanned, never manipulated, I don't even think about it, but every single Bourbon Gospel we've hosted for a year and a half, at some point in a 2-hour night, there's a holy moment that happens. And it can be from a song or something somebody says in the round or something one of my but you can feel it. It's like you can taste it in the room. In a bar, top shelf elevated cocktails, good people hanging out, listening to songs. But something happens every single one. Almost every month I end up getting a message on Instagram or somewhere that says, hey, I've never been there before. I was there for the first time tonight. I don't even know what that was, and I don't know much about God, but I felt something tonight. There's a holy moment that happens every single time. I don't even know what song I'm going to do next. Like, we do it in a round, and I never have a list. I just make it up as I go. I'm like, because I don't even know. It's like, because I'm just running off of the way I used to run the spontaneity of a worship leader back in the day. I never knew what songs I was going to do next. I wrote most of them on the stage, literally. We were a spontaneous worship band. So you don't plan it, but every single time there's a holy moment that happens. So seeing that, I'm like, okay, how do I find a place where I can host these moments? And the byline that doesn't necessarily end up on a hat or a T-shirt, but the byline for everybody in my world with Bourbon Gospel is holy moments in unlikely places. That's what in this season of my life, what I believe I'm called to curate is holy moments in unlikely places. Holy moments in a bar, yeah, that's pretty unlikely, but it seems pretty Jesus in New Testament if you really start breaking it down. So this place, a friend of mine, a dear brother of mine, a couple of brothers, had through the last number of years acquired numerous pieces of property around Columbia. And it turns out that when I texted one of them in December, said, hey, I'm looking for a place. He didn't even respond with words. He just sent me a video of this historic building space downtown Columbia on the square, right on the front of the square. I pulled my truck over on Knob Creek Road because I was so shook by it. I'm looking at it going, this is the dream. This I started writing down a year and a half ago, I will have a venue. I believe it's the Lord. I will have a venue. And I write it down. You talk about stuff I tell myself or speak truth over my life. But it's that God story thing. So the other side note is before he saw us unformed in our mother's womb, and before one of our days came to be, he wrote everyone. That's what the scripture says. Before one of my days came to be, you wrote it in a book. We never think about that. He's already written a really good story for all of us. Now, we get the opportunity to write the bad chapters in if we get off script, and he's gracious, and he'll even redeem that because he's doing that. But I started praying, what's the story? I pray that's a lot of what I pray. God, just keep me connected to the story you've already written, because that one's pretty easy. Like I can have faith and believe for that one. And so instead of making, like the world would say, manifest whatever they want. Yeah. I'm just trying to step into faith and go, what's the story you've already written? Because I'd like to see that manifested, because that's the good one. Like, and that's the higher. Set your affections on things above. That's okay. I want that one. So this building, I pull over on the side of the road. I'm like, this is what I saw. This is what I saw in my mind's eye. This is the vibe. This is the thing. I show up 15 minutes later and walk around it, and since December till now, it has escalated from one space in the building to a pre-existing high top shelf bar that was already next to it that went out of business in February, and the place underneath it that now is moving. And this whole building has become the Bourbon Gospel, which is going to be a full-on 5-day-a-week elevated bar, restaurant, music venue in Columbia. Well, Brett's office is across the street. And through a mutual connect of David, they walk over last week, and they spoke life and blessing over this thing. And he just starts going, okay, there's people you need to know. There's brothers that you need, that y'all have the same drive, the same likes, the same loves. And to his funny joke that we look alike and we're both handsome, I guess is what the text said. So the new adventures are this whole thing down in Columbia of like, hopefully that will be week after week after week moving forward of hosting holy moments in unlikely places. Man. And there's nothing ever been done like that down there. There's some beautiful spots and venues, and there's some cool stuff down there. And it's the last thing I'll say about it. It's deeply spiritual in that I love Nashville. I speak life over it. But in the last 5 or 6 years, Nashville has bet on Broadway and bachelorettes, and that's fine. It's the prerogative of a city. But the sacred songwriter space, because I'm obsessed with songwriters and songs and what songs do in people's lives, the sacred songwriter space is slowly been pushed away and out, and it doesn't exist anymore other than just your iconic Bluebird or your listening room, and a lot of dive bars that try to be writers around and nobody listens. And so deep in my kind of knower, as my wife would say, she always says, I know it down in my knower. My knower knows it. I know in my knower that it's got to go somewhere. Yeah. It's not going to Hendersonville. It's not going to Mount Juliet. Yeah. It ain't going to Murfreesboro. It's not coming to Franklin because there's nowhere to go in Franklin. Yeah. And I believe with everything in me that Columbia, from a spiritual, and my good charismatic friends would call it an open heaven, that I believe that there's a shift in that there's something just waiting.
Yeah, bubbling.
It's bubbling. Yeah. Like Columbia is bubbling to be the songwriter place. Like I see it in my mind that tourists busing into Nashville will pick up the flyer or pick up what to do in Nashville, and it will say, great bars on Broadway. If you want to go where songwriters are, head 35 minutes south. That's what I really believe, and I'm betting everything on it. Like truly betting everything on this thing of like, I want to host holy moments in this very unlikely spot in a very unlikely town. And so that's where we intersected a week and a half ago, and just a handful of guys. It's got a beautiful beer garden out behind it, already ready to go. And we sat out around a picnic table smoking cigars, and taps are already out there. And we had a nice IPA and smoked some cigars, and I heard some really cool new brothers speak life over a thing that I've poured my heart and soul into. And they're like, hey, we got other brothers y'all need to meet. And here we are. So
wow,
all the cryptidness is gone. That's how this all happens. So
when like tactically, when do you think you'll open this thing?
So April 4th, the existing
it's coming up.
Yeah, April 4th we'll open the bar and the beer garden out back. Still a couple of months out from the top writers round. It's a true round. It is a beautiful space. A couple of months out from that being, 3 months probably from that being done. We are taking over a place where a mercantile was next to us, and we'll actually be doing a live Bourbon Gospel round like we do downtown at the end of April there. But the bar, the beer garden, everything will open April 4th.
Will you keep the deal downtown?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because we do it once a month on second Thursday of every month. I'll keep going down there because Broadway needs Jesus too. So.
Yeah. But I mean,
and bachelorettes.
But even marketing wise, like that'll be a good.
Yeah.
Keep that running, and like, hey, if you want more of this, we're out here doing. You think 5 days a week?
Down here, it'll be 5 days a week as an open bar and restaurant.
Yeah.
Elevated cocktails and the good hang of a place. Music will just be Friday and Saturday nights, and growing from there. Because it's an interesting thing to launch a ticketed event for and these are A-list songwriters. This is not an open mic karaoke night kind of thing. There's a fine line between being pretentious and having a high bar. And so, in our hospitality in that place, we're in the middle of hiring staff and all that right now. And it's like the hospitality is bourbon steak hospitality and the casualness of a songwriter's round. Like you won't open a door yourself in our place. Like we open the door, we walk you out. We walk you to your car with an umbrella in the rain kind of thing. Yeah. But the casualness of a songwriter thing, nothing's really been done like that. Yeah. And so it's a genuine, gracious, hospitality driven kind of thing with A-list songwriters writing number ones you sing along to on the radio kind of a thing. So
I'll be there.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I'm screwed if y'all ain't.
That sounds so good.
I want to jump in the
Those are
weeds.
my
Like
favorite
who's working on the food program? Who's building the bar program?
So good.
I love that kind of stuff.
Well, then we need to keep talking.
Yeah,
so
that's exciting.
Look at that little ticker right over there. What time we at over there?
104.
I mean, I think this has been an hour well spent.
I do too, and it went by fast for me.
Yeah.
It went by fast for me. This hit. I mean, I don't know. I just related to everything you said. But I can't write a song.
I'm grateful for this moment. I really am.
Yeah,
so cool.
This has been fun.
I would actually like to spend another hour with you guys in the future and just sit and listen to y'all talk because I've just ran my mouth because I guess that was the assignment. But
that's it.
I can't wait to hear more of y'all's story.
There are two of us over here.
Here's what I think. Winston and I said, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes before you came up, we were like, hey, listen, if this is a bust, Nobody will ever see it. It's an experiment. I don't think it's been a bust. I think it's been a lot of fun. We
Not at
said
all.
the opposite. If this is fun, here's what I would love to challenge you to do. I want you to take this seriously, what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Think about who should be our next mystery guest.
I like it.
We don't want names right now.
Okay, yeah.
We
And
may not want.
We
the
may
name.
not want a name at all.
If it's
I think this could be a fun thing for us to do on occasion.
I can see that.
Where we go, okay, now Michael's going to set up somebody. I'm not even going to know who they are. Somebody's just going to text me from a number I don't know. And I'm going to give them instructions.
Wednesday, 10 o'clock.
Instructions similarly to how I gave them to you.
That's right.
And we're going to be sitting here, and that next person is going to walk up the stairs
I
and
think
have a
it's
seat.
I think it's a fantastic shtick.
I think it's
really do.
kind of fun.
I think you're onto something.
It's a mystery guest.
that's good.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Because
I will tune in. I mean, you got a new listener at least now. You grew by
Well,
one. You grew by one today.
Man,
Hey, hit up,
your next bad day, do the dad joke. It's,
Yeah.
that one. That one's ridiculous.
All right.
You can go to chrisandwinston.com for all the links.
Okay.
YouTube, subscribe, Instagram, TikTok. Golly, TikTok.
Chris and
is
Winston
such
was available.
yeah, TikTok is such a hot mess.
A total hot mess.
I hate it. I hate it all. But this has been a lot of fun, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for having
Hey,
me.
Yeah.
can we get him to read one question?
So look, here's the deal. We have people who send in questions,
Okay.
and we put them in this thing we call the mailbag. It's an old shotgun shell bag. And so pick one out of
Just
there.
pick one out.
Pick one out of
Let's-
there, read it, tell us who it's from, and then we'll all answer it. I think it'd be a fun way to wrap up.
All right. Good. Let's see here.
This will be for my daughter asking to go to
Probably.
Dollywood again.
Probably. Or DC.
This is from M Masters.
Some of them are just usernames.
Instagram, I guess.
Yeah. M Master SJR, St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
What has been your favorite episode so far and why?
He's sitting right here.
Yeah, how can we not say him? This is
Oh,
all.
man, putting us on the spot.
I will just say, if I have to answer that, this one, I guess, because
Yeah,
I really
he's
haven't
gonna have
listened
to
to any
decline.
others just yet.
Yeah.
So
I did enjoy dad jokes.
Dad jokes was fun.
That was fun.
I think I don't know. Watching it back, I just can't believe that I just laugh at all my own jokes that much.
No, there is. Yeah.
I laughed way harder.
Laughing at us laughing was funny.
I don't know, man. We've got because I think we're like 20 now.
Yeah, maybe.
I think this one's been a blast. I'll give it like a top
Everyday
three.
Carry was a great one.
That was
I
fun.
enjoyed
just talking about what
learning.
we care. I also liked having your brother on.
Yeah.
I loved having Jeff on.
Yeah.
Dude, it's hard. It's hard to pick one because then I go, well, I love talking to Motley.
Well, they're all
thought
very different.
Mansfield was great.
Yeah.
You know,
All
they're
very
all very different. But as far as the uniqueness, I think this one might be at the top of the list. I mean, we had no idea who this dude was.
And I had many moments where I was like, I'm about to look him. And we just said, no.
No.
We're
Don't
going to
do
sit
it.
here and not even
Don't do
see
it.
him come in.
I did, I'll tell you this, though. I did have a funny thing happen this morning. I woke up, my alarm was set for 7. I woke up at 5:47, and it was something, I shot up out of bed, and I went, oh, my goodness, I know who this dude is. I know who he is. There is a band, I don't know if you're going to be familiar with these people at all. There was a band that I was obsessed with shortly after, in high school and shortly after, called the Screamin' Cheetah Wheelies.
Mike Ferris.
Mike Ferris.
Big fan.
And dude, I woke up and I went, it's Mike Ferris. Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah,
Mike Ferris.
not that cool.
And,
not that
and
cool.
then the only thing I did, I ran to my closet. I got my phone. I keep my phone in my closet. I think that's a pro tip. And pulled it up and I did Screaming Cheetah Wheelies lead singer and it said Mike Ferris and I knew your name was Ferris.
And
So I
he's
was
been
like,
deeply disappointed
no.
all morning.
But I was like, oh my gosh, if Mike Ferris walks up here, I am going to sing the entire Hello from Venus.
gosh.
I was like, that was the soundtrack to my senior year in high school.
I love
I
it.
was like,
That's you just went up even more in my
yeah, I'm a big Mike Ferris. And I do think he lives around here now.
He does. And
Okay.
I was standing in the airport a number of years ago, and I'm getting my stuff on the conveyor belt, and I'm just we're in a hurry. I'm just throwing stuff out
Yeah,
of my backpack
yeah.
onto the thing, and the guy in front of me looks around and goes, "I like your T-shirt," and I had a T-shirt. I still have it. It's a silhouette of Lionel Richie, It's just a silhouette, and it just says hello. And this dude goes, I love that T-shirt, and it was Mike Ferris. And I look up and I went, oh crap, it's Mike Ferris. So I've met him once.
That's
over
funny.
Lionel,
And you should have said like, hey,
T-shirts.
Mike Ferris. Like
I'm never that cool in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm always like,
This has been great. Man,
Thanks
we
for
appreciate
joining
having
us.
you on.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for having
You're a
me.
very good sport.
Unbelievable.
And be thinking about
I'm on it.
who should the next mystery guest be.
Thank y'all. I'm honored to be with y'all.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out the other videos on our channel and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos.
And if you're tired of seeing our faces talk, you can go the audio only route and catch us on Apple and Spotify. If you do that, be sure to subscribe, give us a rating and a review so that we can reach more people.
See y'all next week.